There are moments in life when you pause, and something whispers, "This was always meant to happen." Not a coincidence, not luck, and certainly not a mistake. You feel it when your heart breaks, and a deeper truth rises from the cracks. You feel it in the silence after pain, in the ache that somehow feels sacred. You feel it when you're staring at the sky, wondering why you're here, and the sky stares back. That is not imagination. That is remembrance. Your soul made a pact before entering this life, a contract sealed in vibration, written not with ink but with energy. You chose your path, your challenges, your gifts, and yes, even your wounds. But then, you forgot, because part of the agreement was to forget, to fall asleep inside a human life, to believe for a time that you are just flesh and memory, and then to remember. That's what you're doing now, and it doesn't always come gently. It comes in waves that tear down your certainty. It comes in losses, in echoes, in déjà vu. It comes in breakdowns that are actually breakthroughs, and in signs so strange, they make your spine shiver. You're not going crazy, you're not broken, you're awakening. And this video may be the most important thing your soul has led you to in years, because the signs are not random. The timing is not random. Nothing is. There are 7 powerful signs that your soul is remembering what was agreed upon, long before you opened your first breath. But to recognize them, you must watch until the end, because some signs are hidden under pain, others are disguised as patterns you think are your fault, but none of them are punishment. They're all keys. Keys to the door you locked yourself out of before you came here. In this journey together, I'll walk you through each of the 7 signs, and with everyone, you'll feel something awaken inside you, not because I'm saying it, but because your soul already knows it. And by the end, you may never see your life the same way again. But first, let's go back. Before the body, before time, before earth, you were energy, a luminous, infinite frequency, a soul that understood what the mind cannot yet grasp. And from that place, you chose this incarnation. You didn't come here to suffer, you came here to remember. But in order to remember, you had to forget. Just like seeds must be buried before they bloom, just like night must fall before the dawn, you had to go through darkness to recognize your own light. And now, something inside you is stirring. The dream of who you really are is rising again, and the signs are appearing, not all at once, but in divine sequence. The first time you felt it, maybe you dismissed it as emotion. The second time, maybe you called it intuition. The third time, it broke something open, and now you're here. Not by chance, not by scrolling, but because your soul led you to this exact message, at this exact time, to remind you what you've always known. Your awakening isn't just personal. It's sacred. It's part of something greater, a shift that ripples beyond your name, your story, your pain. So breathe and trust what's about to unfold, because in the next moments, you will receive 7 signs, each one a reflection of the divine contract you once made. Some will feel familiar, others may shake you, but all of them are invitations to remember what your mind forgot, but your soul never did. Are you ready? Then come closer, because the first sign has already touched your life, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. Let's begin. Sign number 1. You feel like everything is falling apart, but something deeper is waking up. It's the paradox every awakened soul walks through. When your life begins to fall apart, your soul begins to rise. From the outside, it looks like loss. Friendships crumble, certainties vanish, jobs end, illusions burn. People may look at you and think you're collapsing, but what they don't see is that something ancient inside you is remembering the truth. And the truth isn't always pretty, because the soul's awakening is not a gentle whisper, it's a sacred storm. It tears away what no longer serves. It exposes the masks you've worn. It forces you to let go, even when your hands are bleeding from holding on. But that chaos is sacred architecture. Destruction is not the end, it's the clearing. You're not losing control. You're shedding what was never really you. Think back. How many times did your life break? Right before something shifted forever. It wasn't random, it was preparation, initiation, an ancient rhythm playing out through your personal timeline. And here's the secret. The soul will use pain, not to punish, but to pull you inward. Because there are things you agreed to remember in this life, and they don't live in the noise. They live in the silence after the collapse, when everything you thought you needed is gone, and what's left is raw, real, and sacred. You may ask, why would I choose this? Why would my soul agree to break itself just to remember something it already knew? Because the forgetting was part of the path. You cannot remember light unless you've been in darkness. You cannot awaken unless you've first been asleep. And for many, the break is the beginning. You see, your soul didn't just want a peaceful life, it wanted a meaningful one. So it arranged the cracks, the endings, the confusion, the sacred chaos. And you felt it, haven't you? That strange sense of, this is not just pain, there's something more here. That is the contract speaking. When your world shakes, it's the signature of your higher self rewriting the script. And the more you resist, and the more intense it becomes. But when you surrender, something opens. You begin to see signs. You begin to connect dots you never saw before. You begin to feel guided, even when lost. And in that space, the first memory rises, not of a moment in time, but of a truth beyond time. I chose this, and not from a place of punishment, but from love, from evolution, from the sacred promise to awaken while wearing human skin. So if your life feels like it's breaking, if everything around you is shaking loose, if you feel like screaming, why is this happening to me? Know this, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. This is the first sign, and perhaps the most important, because if you see the collapse as an enemy, you'll fight your own becoming. But if you see it as sacred, you'll rise through it like the phoenix. Pause now, breathe, feel into your own story. How many times has your pain led you closer to truth? How many times has the breaking revealed your strength? That is not coincidence, it's memory. And as we move to the second sign, everything will begin to align. Because now that the collapse has happened, the soul is ready to reveal why. Sign number 2, you begin to see repeating patterns, and suddenly, they feel sacred. It starts as frustration. The same type of person keeps entering your life, the same conflict, the same betrayal, the same abandonment, over and over, like a curse written into the fabric of your reality. But it's not a curse, it's a mirror, a sacred loop, coded into your contract, waiting for you to remember what you came to resolve. Because karma is not punishment, it's repetition, until the soul remembers its role in the story. You see, you didn't just inherit patterns from your family, you agreed to carry them, to bring them into awareness, and to break the chain. That's why it hurts. That's why it's personal. Because your soul said yes long before this lifetime began. And now it's time to remember why. You're not just reliving the same lesson by accident. You're being given a key, again and again, until you're ready to open the door. And when you finally stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this trying to show me? Everything changes. That's the pivot point. That's the second sign. You begin to see the patterns not as chains, but as sacred contracts, agreements made with other souls, who sometimes appear as lovers, enemies, even family. They hurt you, not because they hate you, but because on a soul level, they loved you enough to play that role. And yes, that's a truth hard to digest. How can someone who betrayed you be part of your evolution? How can someone who abandoned you be helping you remember your worth? But that's how soul contracts work. They transcend logic. They operate through vibration, memory, and resonance. If it keeps showing up, it's not random. It's karmic. And your soul is asking you to look deeper. Behind the pain is a gift, and the gift is awareness. Because the moment you see the pattern, really see it, from the soul's perspective, and it begins to unravel. You stop reacting, you stop blaming, you begin to choose. That is awakening. You're no longer at the mercy of the script. You become the editor. You become the author. You rewrite the ending. And in that act of conscious awareness, the contract shifts. You no longer need to attract the same pain because you finally alchemized the lesson into light. This is not easy. Your ego will want to resist. It will say they were wrong. It's not my fault. I didn't deserve this. And your soul will whisper, I know, beloved, but you are not here for justice. You are here for remembrance. That whisper is the turning point. Because once you recognize the sacred in the cycle dissolves. And suddenly, what used to feel like chaos becomes confirmation. You start to say things like, "I've seen this before, and I know what this is. This isn't mine to carry anymore." You stop fighting life and start dancing with it. You move with greater awareness. You choose relationships differently. You say no from a place of wholeness. You say yes with discernment. You see karmic echoes before they unfold. And in doing so, you reclaim your sovereignty. This is the second sign. You become the pattern breaker, the timeline shifter, the one your ancestors dreamed of. And now you're not just remembering for yourself. You're remembering for those who couldn't. You came here to be the end of the loop, the first breath after the cycle breaks. And that is sacred work. As we move forward, the third sign will take you even deeper. It has nothing to do with others, and everything to do with a sensation that follows you quietly, a strange familiarity, as if you've lived this before, because you have, and soon you'll remember. Sign number 3, you feel like you've been here before because you have. There's a moment when you walk into a place you've never been, and your body knows it before your mind does, a flicker of memory, a strange feeling in your chest, an invisible thread pulling at your awareness, whispering, "I've seen this before." You stand in front of a person you've just met, and yet their eyes feel like a story you forgot to finish. You touch something, hear a song, smell a certain fragrance, and suddenly time folds. Reality stirs, and for a second, you remember something that doesn't belong to this life. This is not fantasy. This is soul memory, and when it begins to happen more often, when dreams feel like messages, when déjà vu becomes almost daily, when strangers speak words your heart was already whispering, that's the third sign. Your soul is remembering lives before this one. Because the contract you made wasn't written just for this lifetime. It is an ancient vow, woven across incarnations, etched into vibration, carried in your auric field. You didn't begin here, and you won't end here. Your soul has walked through deserts, spoken languages now extinct, loved and lost across centuries, and some of that wisdom is waking up inside you now, not in the form of clear stories, but as energetic imprints, as inner knowings, as sudden clarity you can't explain. You might say, "I don't know how I know, I just do." That knowing is memory resurfacing through the veil, and often it shows up in the form of longing, a deep ache that has no name, a sadness that doesn't belong to your current story, a desire to go home, even when you don't know where home is. This longing is not depression. It's soul homesickness. You're remembering your essence before the forgetting. You're remembering that you came here with a purpose, that you knew the cost, that you accepted the amnesia, because you trusted that at the right moment you would awaken, and that moment is now. When you feel the past bleeding into the present, when timelines overlap in dreams, when you speak a truth that your ancestors couldn't say out loud, you are restoring the continuity of your soul. And sometimes, people from past lives will find you again, not always for love. Sometimes to close a loop, sometimes to finish what was left undone. You'll recognize them not through memory, but through frequency. Their presence feels charged, their energy shakes something in you. It may be beautiful, or it may be unbearable, but it will never be neutral, because these are karmic echoes, calling you back to awareness. And when you don't resist, when you allow yourself to feel what arises without trying to control it, the pattern reveals itself. You realize you are not starting over. You are continuing, resuming, fulfilling the contract your soul made long ago. That's why you're drawn to certain lands, why certain symbols follow you, why your heart reacts to sacred texts as if they were personal letters. It's because they are. You've done this before, and now you're doing it with more awareness. This is the third sign, and once it activates, nothing external can satisfy your longing like the soul's truth can. No possession, no status, no external validation. Because you know somewhere deep that what you came here for is already inside you. And as we enter the fourth sign, that internal compass will grow stronger. You'll begin to trust your path, even when it makes no sense to anyone else. Because remembering doesn't make life easier, it makes it sacred. And the fourth sign will show you how your external reality begins to shift in response to your inner remembrance. Let's continue. Sign number 4, Your outer world begins to shift as your inner frequency rises. It happens quietly at first. You no longer resonate with the same people. Their words feel hollow. Their dramas feel distant. It's not that you're better. You're simply remembering your frequency. Suddenly you crave solitude. Silence becomes sacred. You no longer chase the noise of the world. You start listening to the whisper within. And the more you honor that voice, the more your outer life begins to change. Things fall away, people leave, opportunities vanish, not because you're failing, but because your vibration is shifting, and what was built on the old frequency can't follow you where you're going. This is the fourth sign. Your external reality mirrors your internal awakening. The job that once made sense now feels suffocating. The relationship you clung to now feels misaligned. Even your habits begin to rebel against your former self. And here's what no one tells you. That's a sign of evolution. Because when the soul begins to rise, it cannot stay confined in structures built by the ego. So don't be surprised if you feel the urge to purge, to clean, to let go of things, people, of expectations. This is not self-sabotage, it's soul alignment. The body knows, the energy shifts, and life, like a river, begins to reroute. You may wake up one day and say, I can't keep living this way. That's not a breakdown, that's the soul breaking through. It's your essence rejecting anything that does not match your truth. You'll begin to receive signs, numbers repeating everywhere, uncanny synchronicities, dreams that feel more real than waking life, sudden clarity about a next step that once terrified you. You'll start to feel when something is meant for you, and just as strongly when it's not. And when you trust that knowing, even a little, the universe rearranges. Doors open, dead ends close. People appear who speak your soul's language. And just like that, you realize you're not forcing life anymore. You're flowing with it. That is the mark of a soul remembering its contract. Because when you're in alignment with what you chose to live, life becomes a reflection, not a resistance. And yes, you will lose people. You will feel misunderstood. You will grieve the old self. But on the other side is something you cannot buy, beg for, or fake. Peace. The kind that lives in your bones, in your breath, in your presence. And that peace is magnetic. It draws in exactly what is meant for your path and repels what no longer resonates. This is your power. This is your soul remembering its agreement and finally living from it. So if your world is changing around you, don't panic. Don't cling. Witness it. Honor it. Allow it. You're not falling apart. You're coming into alignment. And if anything shared here resonates with you, leave a comment below. Sometimes the most powerful part of the awakening is realizing you're not alone in it. And if you feel this space speaks your language, subscribe, not just to a channel, but to the frequency your soul has been calling home, because we still have 3 more signs to uncover. And the next one? It will shift how you see the most difficult parts of your journey. Let's continue. We've walked through collapses, echoes, timelines, and mirrors, and now we reach the final 3 signs. They're not louder, they're deeper, more subtle, but unmistakable once seen. Because these signs are not just happening to you, they are you. Let's begin. Sign number 5. You're drawn to ancient knowledge you never studied, but deeply recognize. You stumble upon a text, and your heart races. You hear a name, Thoth, Kundalini, Akasha, and something stirs. You don't remember reading it, but your soul remembers living it. You begin to thirst for sacred teachings, and not because they're trendy, but because they awaken a part of you that was asleep. Ancient Egypt, Hindu mantras, Atlantean prophecies, the Hermetic laws, they don't feel foreign, they feel like home. This is the mark of the mystic returning to their path. The more you read, the more you realize, I'm not learning this, I'm remembering it. And it's not just mental, it's cellular, it's vibrational. As if these teachings unlock codes buried in your being, you may begin channeling messages, writing words that don't feel like yours, understanding dreams with symbols you never studied, because your soul is activating its own library, and knowledge becomes revelation. Sign number 6. You start to feel guided, even in chaos. You begin to notice something surreal. Even when things go wrong, you feel strangely supported. You miss the train, only to avoid an accident. You lose a relationship, only to discover who you really are. Synchronicity becomes your compass. You think of someone, they call. You speak a truth, the next page you read echoes it. You ask the universe a question. The answer appears in a whisper, a lyric, a license plate. It's not magic, it's alignment. Because when your soul is on track, the universe responds. You are not abandoned. You are being led. Even in the silence, even in the delays, even in the shadows. This is not blind faith. It's remembered faith. You begin to live like a mystic in motion, seeing signs in the mundane, receiving messages through reality itself, and what once felt like uncertainty now feels like sacred mystery. You no longer need every answer. You just need presence and trust. And that trust is what opens the door to the seventh and final sign. Sign number 7. You begin to live from the soul, not the story. The final sign isn't something you see. It's something you become. Your choices shift. You no longer move from fear, but from frequency. You stop asking, what should I do, and start asking, what aligns with who I really am? You don't need to prove anything anymore. You simply radiate. You understand your pain without becoming it. You hold compassion for others without betraying yourself. You live in the world, but you are not of it. You walk as a soul in human form, aware, awake, aligned. This is not perfection. This is presence. And this is how you know the contract is not just remembered, it is being fulfilled. You may still cry, you may still fall, but now you fall with awareness. You rise with grace. And through you, the world begins to awaken too. Take a breath. Let the truth of these signs echo in your body. Which one spoke to you the loudest? Comment below. Even a single word to mark this moment in time where your soul whispered, I remember now. And if this journey has stirred something in you, subscribe. Not to content, but to a community of souls who are walking the same remembering, because the awakening is not a solo path, it's a shared flame, and together we are reigniting a truth the world forgot. You did not come here by accident. You came here with a vow, a pact beyond time, to awaken, to remember, and to guide others home by your very presence. This life was chosen by you. So now the question is, what part of your soul are you finally ready to remember?